Now we're getting to the good stuff with number 5.
I want you to hit me as hard as you can. Why? How much can you know about yourself? You've never been in a fight.
Wait.
Alright, here's my problem with Fight Club. No one that likes this movie, as far as I can tell, really takes away a good message from it. So, David Fincher's the one that directed this. He also did Seven, Zodiac, The Social Network. Great filmmaker. He has his style, very dark, very moody lighting and stuff like that, kind of a frenetic editing style and stuff. And that's very evident in this film. The thing is that the film basically, like, this comes down more to the people that like it than the actual film itself. And the people that like it and the uproar from the film when it was initially released, even to this day, is just so contrary to what the film really is about. The film is about toxic masculinity. And yet, like, no one is really punished for engaging in toxic masculinity. Even Edward Norton, he gets the girl at the end and he destroys banks and he completes kind of his anarchist dream. And it's like, that's not what, like, the whole point of it was that, like, people through toxic masculinity can be manipulated, and that it create, like, the idea of masculinity and the idea of breaking out of societal expectations and norms is such a primal drive that we can be easily manipulated due to it. And Edward Norton is easily manipulated by it, and other people across the world are easily manipulated by this idea. And it doesn't really give good... That's kind of the commentary, but the story itself doesn't work with that commentary. Like I said, everyone kind of gets what they want in the end. And and I'm not saying that it needs a happy ending. In fact, like, the ending I'm saying is, no, it's not a happy ending. It's more of just, like, the message of the movie and the way that the movie is portrayed and the way that the characters are portrayed and the message that's taken away are contrary to what the story seems to actually be about. So this ultimately comes down to the fact that, like, I think that the messaging is lost probably about 2/3 of the way through the film. And it's very easy, especially for men as they watch it, to empathize and sympathize with Tyler Durden and Edward Norton at the same time. And because the film doesn't really commentate on, well, if you felt this way and that you kind of got enraptured by this idea, then that's what this is about. This is about the fact that you could easily be manipulated through this idea and through toxic masculinity and this drive to step out of societal bounds. The film doesn't do any of that. And it just kind of, if anything, it doesn't... There's a reason why, after this film came out, people started real fight clubs and shit like that, right? And it's because they didn't really understand that the point was, no, this is a bad thing. So this ultimately comes down to misinterpretation, I believe, of people of the film, and kind of the people that champion it being exactly what the film is commentating against.
Where is my mind? Where is mine? This is too much!
In the end, you will thank me.
Whoa! Whoa!
Let's tackle film snobs again with number 4.
A special tree grows hidden. The tree of life. They say whoever drinks of its sap will live forever.
I'm just going to say it. I'm not a fan of Darren Aronofsky. I thought that I was a while ago, and the film that changed my mind and made me reconsider a lot of Darren Aronofsky films was Mother. I came out of Mother hating that movie. And it made me realize that my problem with a lot of his movies, going all the way back to Pi, is that I say this phrase a lot, and I think it applies to no filmmaker more than probably Darren Aronofsky, which is everything he does is just on the nose. It's just it's easy commentary. It's like it's not very insightful, I don't think. It doesn't really make you think per se. Um it feels like someone making something that they think is smarter than it really is. Like they think that they're doing something very clever when they're really it's not really that clever. And The Fountain falls into this. So I saw this when this came out. And I remember reviews initially were not positive for this film. And at the time, I was kind of positive on it, fairly positive on it. And then recently, I'd say within the past 6 or 8 months, I went back and I rewatched it. And I hated this movie. Like, it's just like, it's one of those films that tries to be grander than the ideas that it's holding are. And it's just like there's no ambiguity, there's no like artfulness in what's happening. It feels like there's no mystery really. It feels like everything it's edited in a way so that everything is very connected and very obvious what the connections are. And it just the motifs of like gold lights and stuff like that, and it feels like a film school submission. It really feels like something a film student would submit, that they think is so clever and brilliant. You know what I mean? But it's just not. It really isn't. Like, I didn't feel like smart for figuring out things in this film. I didn't feel like oh, I'm watching this very artsy film and stuff, and it's because it's not. It's metaphysical bullshit edited in a way that it's not like it doesn't make you think really, because they show something in this scene and they edit to a different time period and therefore they're connected. It's like, okay, connected. Love is connected throughout time and fiction and space shit. And it's like, again, it's an idea that feels larger than the film itself creates. And much like The Master, a lot of you might not have even heard of this one, but I have seen this pop up on lists of films of like the best or like overlooked masterpiece kind of bullshit. And it's not. I will say that there is one Darren Aronofsky film that I really liked, and it was The Wrestler. And the reason why I like The Wrestler is it is a human story about one person in a very insular amount of time. There's no hyperbole, there's no analogy, there's no metaphor, there's none of that. It's a simple story, and it's done really well. And I just wish that he would do that. I could talk forever going over each Darren Aronofsky film about why I don't like it. But I'm picking The Fountain, much like The Master, because there's like this sudden resurgence amongst like film snobs that like this is an unappreciated masterpiece kind of thing. And it's just not.
I'm not afraid anymore, Tommy.
All flesh decays. Death turns all to ash. And thus, death frees every soul.
All right. Here's another one that's going to make a lot of people really mad. It's number 3.
Scott Pilgrim!
Prepare to feel the wrath of the League of Evil Exes.
Ramona dated twins.
At the same time? If you want something bad, you have to fight for it. Step up your game, Scott.
Scott Pilgrim's not likable. I'm not talking just about the film. Obviously I am. I'm talking about the character. And I get that I know in the source material he comes off more nuanced. In this, he's not nuanced at all. He's a piece of shit. He's a piece of shit. He manipulates people. He walks all over them. The villains are not really villains. And I get at the end of the story, we're supposed to, like, you know, Scott Pilgrim kind of realizes this, but he doesn't really. And the reason why, and a big part of this, is because Michael Cera is terrible in this role. He is not a good Scott Pilgrim. He's monotone throughout the whole thing. His emotional range is about like that. And like everything is played so cartoonishly and stuff like that, that like just how much of a piece of shit he is kind of not really, I don't think, emphasized with all the video game graphic, you know, comic bullshit that's happening all around. The fact that he's basically committing statutory rape, and he's an abusive person, and he's emotionally manipulative, and he views his gay roommate in a very one-dimensional way. Like nothing about this is good, in my opinion. Edgar Wright is a good filmmaker. Of all the filmmakers to stylistically make this film, he's probably one of the better choices. Like, you wouldn't have Christopher Nolan make a Scott Pilgrim movie. But I think the biggest problem in this film is the casting of Michael Cera. He's terrible. His character's terrible. You need someone that can carry nuance, and someone that can really create, like, give you that idea that, like, this is a person that's obviously troubled, that has a lot going on. And a lot of this is also just the material that he was given to work with, right? Scott Pilgrim's a long book series. I forget how big it is and how long it is. You're trying to condense all that in. And it's like all the video game references are so superficial, and like, I'm not asking for them to do deep cut video game references, but it feels like a movie for people, like, I don't know. It's a movie that definitely fit. It could only come out during that period it came out, right? It could come out only during that period, that post American Beauty period, like what's a good example? Like pre like 8th grade. If you saw that movie by Jeff Dunham, which is a great movie, but like that period between American Beauty and there, where like that kind of like person that's shitty, but we can still empathize with them, you know, that American Beauty side, all the way to 8th grade, where it's more realistic, down to earth, and empathetic, and it's somewhere in the middle, and then it's just like cartoonishly blown up, and it's more annoying than anything, and it's cacophonous and loud. The music is good. I like the music. I like Brie Larson. Actually, I like everyone in the movie that I can, now that I think about it, other than Michael Cera. But the problem is, he's the title character. He's Scott Pilgrim. And we're supposed to empathize with him and, like, cheer him on and all this other stuff. And he still has friends that stick by him, even though he is a total, like, sociopath. Like, I don't get it. It's bad. It's awful. It's just... no.
What are you doing? Getting a life.
You want to fight me for her? Why on earth would you want to do that?
Because I'm in love with her.
Now we're getting to movies I absolutely hate. Oh, I hated the one before this, but... number 2.
I love Scotch. I love Scotch. Scotchy, Scotch, Scotch. Here it goes down into my belly. That is good.
You're on the air.
How are you? You look awfully nice tonight. Maybe don't wear a bra next time.
I get it. It's a parody. Satire. Still not funny. It's annoying. He says random things. That's funny. If you say those random things, other people will recognize you say those random things, and that they're from this movie. and they might laugh at you. And yeah. It reminds me of that if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. That was funny, wasn't it? And
Important breaking news. Cannonball!
Will Ferrell is Ron Burgundy,
Who's that handsome devil?
a Californian so popular
You stay classy, San Diego.
he could have been governor.
Hey, I like that fatty.
Oh, Mr. Burgundy.
Anchorman, the legend of Ron Burgundy.
number 1.
Wake up, Donnie.
I met a new friend.
Real or imaginary?
28 days,
Imaginary.
6 hours, 42 minutes, 12 seconds.
I just watched this yesterday to reaffirm I did not like this movie. I watched it because I was like, you know what, it can't be as bad as I remember. It can't be as superficial and like, you know how I said like The Fountain feels like a film student submission? This feels like one too. And I gave it a fair shot. I have given this movie a fair shot. It's just, it has nothing to say. There's nothing interesting in it. Jake Gyllenhaal plays one of my least favorite characters in fiction, and one of my least favorite kind of people in life. The people that are mentally disturbed, but they just know everything, and they can see things we can't, and they're so insightful, and they're the only ones because they're mentally disturbed, or because they have things wrong with them that are able to break the mold. Like, and like, it's all in service of a story that really doesn't mean anything. I get it. Time loops. There you go. There's the big mystery of the movie. Time loops. And then you get also Jake Gyllenhaal being moody and edgy. Just think about emo Peter Parker in Spider-Man 3, but imagine it taken very seriously and for an entire movie. It's one of those things where it feels like I don't feel like it wasn't one of those movies where, like, you know, you watch it and it's like, oh, well, there's a lot to here to decipher, and there's a lot of stuff going on, and if you really think about it, like the symbolism and the fact that this is this and are connected, and time loop. There's time loops and time travel, and I just don't like this movie. I don't see the appeal in it, honestly. Great cast, great ensemble cast. Maggie Gyllenhaal, Jake Gyllenhaal, Ryan Reynolds, Patrick Swayze, Drew Barrymore, Seth Rogen. What's her name? Jenna Malone. Who's in Neon Demon and really good in Neon Demon. But like, it felt like the film equivalent of the teenager in American Beauty. It felt like if that character wrote a movie, we are watching that movie. And that's the thing. Like, it's like Donnie Darko's not likable. He's not. It's like no one's really likable in this. And except the mom. I like the mom. The mom and dad are good. And Maggie Gyllenhaal's fine. Although Maggie Gyllenhaal, for all of her career, has looked 30. I'm realizing. Like 30, 35. For her entire career. And she was 24 in this, and she still looks 30. And she's much older nowadays, and she still looks 30. it doesn't, like, it. Time travel movies in general are not very good. And I'm not talking, and here's the thing, I'm not talking about like, oh, I didn't understand it, or there's so many plot holes or anything like that. No, I think I get it. I think I get it. It's just not interesting. And it's all in service of nothing. So I didn't come away from it thinking, because here's the thing, and this kind of goes back to The Fountain, this goes back to The Master, and a whole bunch of other things. There's plenty of films I've watched that I didn't understand what happened to them, or what happened in them. There's plenty of films where contradictions occur, or I'll talk about one in the future on another video of like 20 films that you probably haven't heard of but are really good. One of them is called Swimming Pool, which is an erotic thriller, or a French erotic thriller, where the ending basically makes you question everything, and it recontextualizes everything, makes you go back and think, and it kind of reframes the question, kind of thing. And there's a lot of films actually on that list that are kind of like that. This film didn't make me ask any questions, really. It's like, okay, he avoided death at the beginning, and then he decided to die at the end in the event that he avoided the death from in the beginning. And if you just think about time as a cyclical loop, and being able to see time and shit, it's not interesting. It's not interesting. It feels like a movie that, like, if you watched it when you were younger, if you watched it when you were a teenager, and that was your first time seeing it, and it was your first time seeing a film like that, it probably hooked you. For a long time, I felt that way about American Beauty, because I watched that when I was younger, and that hooked me. And the way that it was shot and stuff like that. Alan Ball, the director, and, you know, his style and all that. But as I've gotten older and I've moved away from it, like, I realize I don't really like it, and it's not very good, or that it's not as good as I remember. And I watched Donnie Darko probably in my teens, late teens, and it still didn't hook me then. And I watched it literally a day or two ago, and it's worse than I remember. Worse than I remember. It is the one movie I will not understand. I don't think I will ever like it. I've read explanations. I've read why people like it. I just will never meet you there. I don't think I will ever meet you there. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But next week, you guys can do the same thing to me, because next week I'm going to list 10 movies that I like that most people do not. See you then.